That Was Yesterday podcast is brought to you by Define Mind and Body Wellness, my wellness center here in Glastonbury, Connecticut, where we specialize in holistic services to help shortcut the process so that you can see results fast, but learn to do it in a habitual way. So many of the topics we talk about are part of the program that our clients receive, except they get much more in-depth detail. Also, my workbook of the 10-week program to lose and never look back, which is only available to our patients at Define. If you are interested in holistic body fat spot reduction, or our pod to increase your metabolism, or our cold plunge, or our sauna, which is the best sauna in the world, that I promise you. I know that sounds biased, but you'll see for yourself. Please go to definewellnesscenter.com. You will be prompted to put your information in and make sure to mention podcast when you do, as you will be eligible for a bigger discount on our introductory services because you are a listener. Appreciate you. Have a great day and enjoy today's podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the That Was Yesterday podcast. I am your host, Joe Carabase. And today we are talking about a topic that I should know nothing about. I am a 37-year-old man. Although the last 20 years of my life, I've had the opportunity, and I would say privilege, to work with thousands of women on a very deep level and helping them transform their mind and their bodies. And so because of that, I have had a wealth of experience hands-on working with women in the areas of which they struggle. And obviously with this being my profession, I'm always looking to learn more and such. And so today, what we're going to talk about, these are topics that I talk about just about every day with patients, whether they're clients or incoming people, questions I get asked about all the time. And I can assure you there will be something here, especially, even for men, to be honest with you, but especially for women, that you're going to want to listen up, because these are things that are kind of against the grain. I believe our weight loss industry as a whole our weight loss societal sort of approach is broken, and it's honestly only getting worse. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is different from those items. And so, I'm excited to dive right in. Let's do it. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about weight loss and weight loss goals. I think weight loss goals are a really bad idea if they are the number one thing we are focusing on. And here's why. Especially as a woman, there are so many things that are going on internally that are far out of your control. So as good as you might be eating, as much as you might be exercising, there's water fluctuation, there's hormone fluctuation, there's water retention, there's what your body could be holding on to because of a bad night of sleep, or maybe something that you ate, maybe a internal inflammation of an injury you don't know you had, or maybe a tendon. There's so many things going on inside your body, but not the least of which the hormones and the water retention are the biggest, that weight is not reflective on the scale of actual progress. So what you see on a scale does not mean, if the weight went down, doesn't necessarily mean that everything you're doing is great. And on the contrary, it doesn't mean if the weight didn't move or if the weight went up, that everything you are doing is a waste of time and you're wrong, you're not doing good. And the problem with it all is that we put so much emphasis on weight so that when it doesn't move in a way we want it to, we beat ourselves up, we get frustrated, or we make rash decisions and pursue a weight loss approach that might not be the best idea long-term. And that could actually set you back, not even years, decades, legitimately. And here's the other issue is that, a lot of doctors will say, you need to lose weight, and it's like, well, no shit. Like, you probably already had known that. And then they'll give you an indication based on what they might think your weight should be based off some outdated study of like, oh, well, where you're at, your, BMI, body mass index, is one of the worst metrics you could ever use. BMI will tell you that I am obese, and I'm clearly not obese, but just because the distribution of your height and your weight doesn't necessarily mean, if you have a lot of muscle, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, it's inaccurate. And so that's number one. The other issue with setting weight goals is that we have an idea of what our weight goal should be based on what we want it to be. Oftentimes a woman will tell me their weight goal. My first question is always, when was the last time you were that weight? And oftentimes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and sometimes 2 years. But if that 2-year period was the weight you were before menopause compared to where you're at right now in menopause, it's a different playing field. And so I'm here to tell you, probably not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, which is nobody on the face of this earth, yourself included, because you're only going to go off of what you want, not necessarily what is actually true to your body at this stage of the game. But nobody can tell you what your weight actually should be. It's such a personalized thing. There are so many factors that go into it, from your energy output, your energy input, any injuries, any sort of medications, anything that's causing inflammation, dietary wise. So many people are eating in a way that is getting cause inflammation. They don't even know, they don't even realize. And look, it's not the obvious, like processed foods. Of course that can cause it, or high sugar can cause it, but so can vegetables. If you have a sensitivity to vegetables, or if you're overeating vegetables, you could be causing bloat. There's so many things that go into it. So when I say nobody knows the right weight goal for you, I truly mean that. And I'm not saying like get away from weight goal, but what I am saying is let it be a North Star. Like, to my mind, as much as I know about history, which isn't a ton, but I know this, we have used the North Star as a destination point for almost all, since the beginning of time, right? But to my knowledge, nobody has ever landed on a North Star. We use it as set point. Let's head in that direction. That is what weight could be. So I'm not here to say you'll never be your weight that you want to be. But what I am here to say, let's not put all of our focus on it, and let's take all of the pressure off yourself to get that weight, because that might not be the right weight for you right now at this time in your life. Different points of your life, your body changes. And you probably know this. If you're going to be objective about it, think about it. In college, having your first kid, having your second kid, any subsequent kids, hitting 40, hitting premenopause, hitting menopause, beyond menopause. Like, your body is continually changing, and therefore so is your ideal weight. So that being said, when we think about weight loss diets, we have to be very concerned, because we're already starting on a false pretense that, weight should be the focus. And I'm here to tell you, as I just mentioned, it's not. And so here's the problem, is that especially women over 40, it's very hard for women to lose, way harder than it is for men. That's just a fact of life. There's just no way around that. And you know this if you're a woman listening. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But with that being said, with it being harder, it can cause you to make rash decisions, or to do things, if you really sat and thought about it, you probably wouldn't do. But it can be so hard when you're working out, you're eating clean, your life is busy, you got a lot of stress, the scale's not moving, you don't feel good about yourself, you want to see change. So it makes sense to do something that's going to help you see a difference on the scale. So what could that look like? A weight loss diet, your Optivias, your Medi weight losses, really low calorie diets that, most often you're going to lose some weight. Here's the problem. Because you are under eating, what ends up happening, a lot of what you lose is muscle, because muscle is costly for your body to keep. You have to take in a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of calories for your body to utilize muscle. And if you're eating too few calories, the first thing muscle is going to let go of, or your body's going to let go of, is going to be muscle. And that's not ideal. That will cause you for your weight to go down. I mean, as you've probably heard a million times, muscle weighs more than fat. It does. But even in that sense, like, that's not the weight loss you want to have. You don't want to be like a smaller yet fatter version of yourself, because that's what ends up happening. As muscle goes down, fat increases. They are inversely related. Not to mention, there's metabolic damage done when you eat low-calorie diets. First of all, anytime you're losing muscle, your metabolism is going to slow down. Muscle is metabolically active. A pound of muscle burns about 50 calories at rest. So the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is going to be. But the other problem with a lot of these weight loss diets that are super low calorie, I'm going to pick on Optivia for one, because it really pisses me off. Why does it piss me off? Well, their first 30 days, they actually encourage you not to exercise. In what world does that make sense? We live in 2024, where even a wellness coach like myself, who is passionate about fitness, who is, this has been my life, I am by definition sedentary. And so we're going to take the average person who has to lose 20 more pounds, who, by the way, has to lose that because a lot's gone into that, right? That weight packed on, not because they are working out all day in most cases. And so there's a lot of lifestyle things going on there, a lot of stress going on there. And we are going to tell that individual, hey, don't exercise. And why do they say that? Well, because there's not enough nutrition for you to exercise. And so a way around that, circumvent that, they tell you not to exercise. That's a horrible, horrible premise to start any plan. And look, if you have lost on Optavia, I don't want to in any way offend you because I want you to feel good about your results. But what I will tell you is that exercise is a part of life. It has to be a part of life. We are meant to move. And the idea of, oh, I'm going to lose weight, then exercise is a horrible, horrible idea. Because think about it. Every single day, you're getting up and down off a chair. You're getting up and down off the toilet. You're going in and out of your car. You're picking up groceries. You're reaching up in your cabinets. You're picking up laundry. You're doing all these various things. Well, what are those things? Those things are functional movements if you break it down. Sitting up and down is a squat. There's no way around that. So we're not going to exercise because you need to lose weight, but you're going to do all those other things. Do you think that's better or worse for your body? Exercise doesn't need to be something we put up on a pedestal. Exercise is nothing more than intentional movement. That's all it is. It is literally just going through the motion. So if you just think about exercise in that context and realize that, yeah, if you got 20 or more pounds to lose, you've never worked out a day in your life, of course, let's not go to CrossFit. Not recommending that. But what I am recommending, let's teach you how to squat in a way that's going to build some lower body strength. It's going to build some upper core strength to stabilize your core as you sit back into a squat. There's a million ways that you can exercise shy from anything that's going to hurt you. And I know that. I've been in the fitness world for almost 20 years. I have helped people. I have active clients right now who have fibromyalgia, MS, horrible balance, can't stand for more than 5 minutes at a time. They're exercising. Now, are they getting up and down off the floor doing burpees? No. But they're doing seated exercises. They're doing non-weight bearing exercises. Because in their life, if they want to live a long life, if you want to live a long life, you want to live a functional life, you have to be able to do movement. The only way to be able to do movement is to do movement with intention, right? With weights. And I'm going to talk about that later on. But the point is that low-calorie diets are not the way to go. And the other thing I will say about it, low-calorie diets as well as these weight loss medications and injections, is that, so the weight loss medications are doing a similar thing in that you're causing your appetite to be suppressed. So you're not eating as much. Well, when you're not eating as much, that directly slows down your metabolism. So whether you're following a diet that is restrictive or you're taking a medication that is causing your appetite to go away, you are slowing down your metabolism. That is just the reality of it. Your metabolism will not get faster by eating less. That's not how it goes. And I'm not here to tell you, oh, just eat as much as you want all day and your metabolism can elevate. I'm not saying that. But I am saying is that if you don't take in enough calories, it's going to slow your metabolism down. It's going to affect your digestion and therefore affect your elimination. And some other considerations of that is your energy is going to drop because as your metabolism drops, so does your energy, which is why so many people are experiencing energy issues. So many people are now experiencing digestive issues who have been on weight loss medications. I mean, not everybody, of course. I love that cliche, 2 words to always make sure to never use are always and never, as in nothing is 100% all the time. And so, of course, I am speaking in generalities here, but I'm saying most people are going to have issues with their metabolism. And by the way, with these weight loss pills and medications, something else you should know is that if you go on these medications, and it drives me crazy when I see these commercials because they're like, oh, we're going to teach you how to lose weight for the rest of your life and how to be healthy. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. All it's doing is suppressing your appetite. That is not a sustainable approach. The second you go off that medication, your appetite comes back. But worse, the metabolic damage is done. Not to say it's done forever, but now it just makes that mountain you were already climbing much steeper. Same thing again, if you're eating a low-calorie diet, that is slowing down your metabolism. Another thing that happens with these, when we're talking about weight loss diets is cutting out carbs completely, cutting out alcohol, dry November, dry October. Okay, well, you lose 20 pounds, great. Who cares if you gain back 40? That's not good for your body. I don't tell our clients to cut out carbs. I don't tell our clients to cut out alcohol. Now, of course, any rational adult has to be able to see the fact that if you drink a lot of alcohol and eat a lot of carbs, you can only expect to get as good as a result as you can with those two things being true. That being said, we teach our clients how to manage it, how to work it into their lifestyle as well as their commitment level. And so carb rotating becomes super important. We'll talk about that. Giving yourself allowance with alcohol. And obviously the types of things that you're eating, all carbs are not created equal, right? Fruits and vegetables are considered carbs, but I'm, for this context, talking about traditional carbs, your breads, your pastas, your rices, your sweet potatoes, your oatmeal, etc. Some are better than others. I would always recommend gluten-free carbs. Same thing with alcohol. Look, you can have all the cosmos you want, but you're not doing yourself any favors. Same thing with IPAs. The amount of guys, as I said before, guys have it easier than women when it comes to weight loss. However, the amount of guys who were once fit who are now getting beer bellies because of IPAs is significant. And not just beer bellies, but diabetes because of the amount of sugar that are in those things. So, there's levels of which you can do, and there has to be some level of sacrifice, but there also shouldn't be all or nothing, right? So moving on to the next really important part that we need to talk about. So number 2 is that, we're talking about, we define what weight loss was first and how weight loss goals aren't the best. And so let me just finish on that point. I think it's really important because it's like, all right, well, don't measure weight. What am I measuring, Joe? What am I going to measure? Well, here we measure circumferences. We measure your gene size. We guarantee with various programs, you're going to drop 2 gene size. You're going to drop 1 gene size because we know with our technology, we can get there. But we also know that is a better way to track progress. Now, you shouldn't be wearing your gold pants every single day, right? But if you're following a specific program, making habitual changes over time, that is a good thing to use. So the clothes that you want to fit into, how your clothes fit, but also the things that you're doing every day, how you're eating, how you're taking care of yourself. If you commit to simply making more healthy decisions than not, and you track those and you feel good about those, in other words, you acknowledge the things that you are doing, then you will notice a significant difference over time. But if you just sort of look at, well, the scale's not going down, I'm not doing nearly enough, and beat yourself up and allow any of your insecurities to rise to the surface and just use that in this shit cycle of shame, then you're going to be stuck, right? So acknowledge so you're talking about what to track, any little thing that you are doing that is forward. I have a quote. It's a pretty damn good quote if I say so myself, all right? Which is, anything above nothing is something, AKA progress. Anything above nothing is something, AKA progress. Do what you can, track what you do, feel good about it. All right, let's move on. The next thing is we need to understand weight loss is not a logical issue. It is an emotional issue. Weight loss is not a logical issue. It is an emotional issue. So when that doctor is like, oh, you need to lose weight, you're like, yeah, no shit, dude. Like, tell me something I don't know, right? Like, that if you have to lose weight, you have to lose weight. We don't have to be told that. And that like eating processed foods isn't good. Eating cleaner foods is healthy. Exercising is good. Not sitting down more than you stand is, but these are things that are caked into our life, but they're also caked into our system, our subconscious. I'm a certified hypnotist, and I've been a coach long before that for a number of years. And I can tell you, behind every single weight loss case I have ever worked, there is an emotional micro or macro trauma that needs to be resolved if you are ever going to A, lose the excess that you want to lose, but more importantly, B, keep it off and feel good about keeping it off. That's very important. See, oftentimes this happens in the fitness world. This was part of my journey where we can outwork ourselves. Some of us love to exercise. Some of us hate to exercise. Some of us exercise just because of what it does for us internally. But those of us who have no aversion to exercise can overdo it and never feel good about it. It's not logical. That's an emotional thing. And those of us who are completely either scared of exercise or intimidated by it or feel so uncoordinated or unathletic, they won't even go near it, or have had a really bad experience around it, so they don't do it, are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Because, as I said earlier, I don't care where you are in your life or where you're on in your journey, you can exercise. You can lose through exercise, no matter how unathletic you think you are. I would argue everybody is an athlete. And don't believe me? Watch any baby. I don't care. Like, the fact with all this talk about obesity being genetic and obesity being a brain disease is such bullshit. And it fires me up because it's so disempowering for people. And that's a horrible thing to do to somebody. You're leading them down a downstream of consciousness that leads to apathy. If you're telling somebody, oh, you were born to be fat, because that's essentially what you're saying. You're essentially saying your brain is messed up. You're broke. Take this medication, get fixed. That is bullshit. Yes, some people are born with a slower metabolism. There's no denying that without question. But it's more about the environment of which you grow into, how healthy or unhealthy your parents are. And then, of course, how healthy or unhealthy the habits are that you take up the rest of your life than it is about your metabolism, or especially that it is being your brain. No, that's not it. That's not it. At the end of the day, it's the environment you were brought into and the environment you grew used to. But under it all is the emotional, internal, micro, or macro trauma that is holding you back and telling you a story about what you are, giving you the labels of which to put upon you. And I work with people who, there was one woman I'm thinking of. She just messes me a lot with her updates now. She's absolutely killing it. So she's top of mind. But she lived most of her life, I want to say until her early 30s, thinking she was fat and unathletic. And you know why? Because when she was younger, she never had anybody to teach her how to exercise. And therefore, she didn't feel comfortable. Then when she wasn't good at it, her parents were overweight. So she then ate what her parents ate. I mean, what are you going to do as a 3-year-old? You're going to go shopping at Trader Joe's when your parents are eating McDonald's? Yeah, right. You know that ain't going to happen. You're going to eat what your parents eat, which is why, by the way, most kids who are overweight as adults. And most adults who are overweight are going to have overweight kids for these reasons, generally speaking. And again, this is not all circumstances. A lot of people break free on their own. But the point is, a lot of people are born with these cards to deal with. And no blame on the parents. They're doing their best. They got their own emotional shit they need to deal with. But this is a reality we face. And I don't say this in a way that, certainly not beating down on anybody. I say it in a way of optimism. You're telling somebody that they have something wrong with their brain, as Dr. Fatima did on CNN to the entire world, telling them that obesity is a brain issue? Really? That is wrong on so many levels. And I know that because, I have never been overweight. Yes, I haven't. But I have helped thousands and thousands transform their body who were overweight their entire life. So I know this to be true. In any event, going back to what to do, right? This girl, Janelle, right, who was her entire life, she doesn't mind if I share her name. She's given me her photos to share. But her entire life, all she knew was that she was overweight. So just imagine that. Imagine your entire life, you always struggled with sports, and you were probably called fat a lot, as I know she was. She was called unathletic. Why would she think she was athletic? In the formative years of her life, she was called these horrible names, and society had set her up and pigeonholed her in a corner of being overweight. But that's not an identity. Being fat isn't an identity, and I would never even say that, but that's what she used to call herself. A lot of people will call themselves fat. So I'm speaking to where a lot of people are, which is, even if you are overweight, you're not fat. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean you're just destined to be that. That's just where you are at, right now. That doesn't have to be your story. And so let's just imagine in her case, what if this girl who had unhealthy parents had a gym teacher who took interest in her and showed, hey, it's okay you didn't do well on the mile. It's okay. Here's how you can get better. Or maybe someone introduced her to some sort of activity or sport she would have enjoyed as a kid. Or maybe someone taught her about eating healthy at an early age. Maybe people encouraged her, told her she was an athlete. All she had to do was work at it. Maybe if people did that, she wouldn't grow up into an adult thinking she was overweight and fat and unathletic. But nobody did that. And it wasn't until she and I got the chance to meet. And the very first time I met her, I told her straight up, because she called herself fat. And I said, that's bullshit. You are an athlete. You just haven't discovered it yet. That's all I said, and I meant it. But it meant a lot more to her. And she took that and ran with it. I think she's breaking records now at the gym she's at. And she's inspiring a lot of people. And that's one of many stories. So the point is that weight loss is an emotional issue. Why is that important? Well, if you chase every diet in the world, if you do any surgery in the world, and you don't take care of your internal, you're never going to be able to truly lose and feel good about yourself in that way. And so we're not going to get too deep into weeds in this particular topic, but this is something that we will go into deeper in the future. But for this right now, I would say if you want an action step as it comes to this, is start to monitor how you're talking about yourself. Stop calling yourself fat. Seriously, stop. You're not lazy either. People tell me they're lazy, and I'm like, dude, you're a parent. I know what that's like. You can't be lazy as a parent. Even parents who are unhealthy you're responsible for, you damn well better be taking care of your kids, right? You can't be lazy and do that. You can't be lazy and be a professional and have any success in anything. And so what I would say to you is stop saying those words about yourself. Just stop. And you're gonna have in your head, fine, but focus on breaking that habit by just becoming more aware of it and start saying more encouraging things. I am in progress, right? But also I would say this one more thing before we move on, which is think about congruence. What I mean by that is, I mentioned people say they're lazy when it comes to exercise. No, you don't value exercise. But the things you value, you're not lazy at. Think about it. What are the things in your life that nobody has to tell you to do? You just do. You know there are things. I don't care what it is. There are things. It could be spending time with your family. It could be watching a particular show or sports team. How many people are so passionate about their sports team? They'll look up stats. They'll recite the rosters. They'll watch every game. Nobody's putting a gun to their head, but they value that, right? I had a client recently. I was doing a hypnosis session with her, but we started to really unpack things on a conscious level, because that's just, as a coach, you can't just go with a plan. You got to go with where the person needs in that moment. And we were talking about her daughters, it's actually quite cute and inspiring, I believe. Both of her daughters wanted her to get into Sudoku because they saw that Sudoku helped with traumatic brain injury. That's pretty fucking cool, huh? The girls are looking out. I love that. Anyway, so my client was like, I don't fucking care about Sudoku. Yeah. But it meant so much to her daughters. And because of that, she did it. And how she did it, this is how she did it. She started off small. She did a little bit every day. She didn't really like it at first, but over time she got better. She started to enjoy it a little bit. And she told herself she was going to do it for a whole year to appease her daughters. And so she did. And because of that, after that year, she got better. She got more competent. She enjoyed it more. And so when I talk about building congruence, what is your Sudoku? What are the things that you can take away? Because that's what I was talking to her about. I'm like, all right, well, let's dissect this. What enabled you to do Sudoku for a year when you first started off and hated it, that you think you can't exercise a little bit a week? And as we started to break it down, it's like, let's start small. Let's do what we can. And let's realize that the more you do something, the better you get at something, the more you enjoy it. So it's the same thing with exercise. If you don't like exercise, it's not like you were born not to like exercise. People say that about themselves. That's not true. It's just, again, you've never had the right amount of exposure to it. You never found the right pace of it for you to enjoy. Oh, I've tried everything. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. That's a generalization. Guaranteed you could find a level. So when I talk about building congruence, it's like what's worked in one area of your life will work in other areas of your life, right? Think about that. What enabled you to get a college degree? How'd you get your driver's test? How'd you walk, by the way? Did you come out of the womb walking? You did? No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You know what happened? You, like every one of us, couldn't walk when they were a little infant. They couldn't even crawl. We couldn't even crawl for a while. We had to learn to crawl. How did we learn to crawl? We fell on our face and kept trying. We cried, but we kept going. Our parents encouraged us. Same thing with walking. You fell a lot. Then all of a sudden you didn't. And now we take it for granted. But that was a skill. One of the hardest skills, perhaps. But you did it. If you did that, I damn well, trust me, without a shadow of a doubt, like, you cannot tell me. If you learn to walk, you cannot learn to like exercise for a half hour a week, 3 10-minute workouts a week. You just cannot tell me that, because that's just a lie. Just be real with you. You can do that. You just haven't took in the time and the consideration, perhaps been told the right sort of scenario or approach that will work for you, but it's there for you. I promise. I know it is. And so look at areas of your life of which you have had that success and replicate it. replicate it by looking at the principles that worked for you in that area. You're going to find it's pretty consistent. You started small, you kept at it, you kept doing it, and then you got better at it, you started to enjoy it more, and it became less and less conscious, became subconscious because you learned it. And that is what will happen with exercise or anything else that you ever want to learn. All right, moving forward. One more for today before we break, and then we're going to do this as a multi-part series. The next thing is we talked about weight loss being an emotional issue, not a logical issue. The next thing about this kind of correlates with it, but separately, is stress, right? Stress. Man, we all have it. We live in 2024. We live in a world that is so polarizing. There's just sides on different sides on every topic, just going at each other. There's bots, there's robots, there's computers that are designed to put these memes out there and content and Twitter messages out there that get people all sorts of riled up and make them angry at each other and argue and fight. And it's crazy. The pace of our society is nonstop. We have this phone, which is like, man, if you would have gave that to somebody in the 1800s, they would have been like, what the hell is this? Meanwhile, there hasn't been evolution of our brains since that point of time. So that's an important note because we still don't know how to work these things. What I mean by that is we don't know how to adapt these things in a way. Like we have not adapted to the technology yet. Our brains haven't. We can learn to use it. We can create better versions, but we haven't adapted how to figure this thing out. Social media and technology being constantly on. This is why the world, a lot of people think is going to shit because more and more people are so stressed. People are angry at each other. Suicide rates are through the roof, which is heartbreaking because especially it's like, populations that you think, we don't want anybody to commit suicide, but like the amount of high school girls that are committed suicide or the amount of retirees, like what? This shouldn't be happening. But this is the level of stress that we're dealing with. So we have to learn quickly, people. We have to learn quickly how to manage our stress. And look, it ain't gonna be perfect. And let me tell you something. I am not a monk, okay? I have a lot of stress myself. And I'm not perfect at it. Nobody is. But I'm aware of it and I'm working on it. And that's all you can ever do. That's what I'm kind of suggesting to you here. But you got to realize stress, especially for women, the higher amount of stress you have is going to correlate with an increase around your stomach. There's just no way around it. And so we got to keep that in mind, right? You could be that person who's working out all the time, eating super clean. Why am I not losing my stomach? Well, how's your stress? And by the way, how's your sleep? If you're not getting enough sleep, it's going to increase your cortisol. Your brain's not recovering. Your body's not recovering. That will increase your stress. But here are some other things to be aware of, especially as a woman. You guys are nurturers. From a primal standpoint, that is what's ingrained in you, is to mother, to nurture, to give. And because of that, where do you put yourself most often? Last. There's a lot of guilt associated with doing anything for yourself, especially when you have kids running around. And I'm here to tell you that's a wrong approach. It's a wrong approach. I'm not saying it's easy to go against that, but I am telling you it's a wrong approach. Trust me, I work with a lot of young moms. I work with a lot of retirees, and I work with a lot of also women who, have kids who are empty nesters. And it backfires. It does not work out in the long run. You got to make sure you take time for you now. By the way, if you think about good parenting is taking care of yourself. Why is that? Two really, really important reasons. Number one is that if you don't take care of yourself, you will never be who you need to be for everybody else in your life. You just won't. You will not be your best self if you take care of everybody else first. It's just impossible. And number two, when you take care of yourself, you are showing your kids how important it is to take care of yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a model. You just got to be someone who is actively working to eat better, to move more, working on your internal, working on the things. If you are running around the house as an adult woman talking about how ugly you are, how fat you are, and you're always putting yourself down, who do you think is getting impacted by that besides you, your kids? It's the truth. And it's a hard truth, but it is the truth. If you are talking about yourself like that, you are modeling how to talk to yourself to your kids. If you are not exercising, you are modeling to your kids not to make exercise a priority. If you are not eating clean, you are modeling to your kids that eating clean is not important. It just is what it is. And it's not here to make you feel bad about it. But hey, we got to have a conversation. I don't know why there can't be conversations about these topics in this world. It's like everybody's so sensitive about everything. It's like, look, I get it, but like, come on now. Our country is getting more unhealthy as you go. At some point, something's got to change. So that's number one, is that realizing that, yes, we live in a very, very stressful time, but it is what it is. You don't have a time travel machine, do you? As I don't. So here we are. So let's do our best. Part of that is taking care of yourself. Self-care is so important. Taking a little bit of time for yourself. If you have babies running around, you're like, I don't have time to exercise. I understand that. I have 2 kids under 3, but you know what? Sometimes you got to let the kid cry as you move. You can do a workout set and then hug your kid. The kid does not have to be coddled 24/7, right? And I am very loving with my kids. Trust me. Follow me on social media. That ain't no joke. Ask anybody who's ever been around me. Ask my kids. I'm very hands-on. But at the same time, when daddy's exercising, daddy's exercising. And of course, obviously, we're making sure there's a safe environment, right? There's gates, there's child locks, they're in sight, But they're seeing daddy and mommy exercise. And over time, as they're getting a little older, they know, like, oh, they're exercising. And it becomes normal. But yeah, it is challenging at first. You'll get there, though. So self-care isn't just exercise. Self-care is taking time for yourself. That's a good way to decompress. A lot of us know meditation is really good to do. You know this. I don't need to tell you this. We have all heard it. And yet, why don't most of us meditate? Well, I'm not good at it. Every time I sit down and meditate, I get all these thoughts in my head, blah, blah. That is what meditation is. See, we have this idea of meditation that we think about monks and they're just like just perfectly still, so relaxed. And then we compare that to our experience and we're like, what the? I can't sit down for a second without anything. My mind goes crazy. That's the idea. Think about it. You shut off all the sounds around you and you sit down and be quiet. When's the last time you've done that? Number one, when you're not sleeping. Number two, what do you think's going to happen? Your brain is trying to unload. All of those rapid thoughts, it's not like they're just happening. They're always happening. You're just now seeing them because you're more present. Think about it. If you have a computer and you have 10, 15 different windows up at once, your CPU, the power of your computer, is going to be significantly diminished because the system is trying to keep up with all that you have open. What do you think happens to your mind? The more that's in your mind, the more spread thin your mind is. And when that happens, we are more susceptible to our insecurities, our fears, our anxieties, to the things that we know that aren't good for us. Take some time to slow down. I'm not saying you have to meditate, but take a 10-minute bath by yourself. Go for a 10-minute walk. These are things you can do. The last part is I want to touch upon, and again, this could be its own podcast, but comparing yourself to where you think you should be. Anytime you use the word should, could, would, those are what I call ANDs, automatic negative thoughts. And the more you frame things like that, the more you're beating yourself down. Give yourself grace. There is no where you should be. This is where you are. Who, in what world should you be there? Oh, well, if I just, no, but you didn't. And no offense, but you didn't. And here you are. And by the way, all those things that we think we should do or should be, well, there's a reason why you didn't. And I'm not saying it was a good reason, but I am saying it was a reason good enough for you to follow that. And I can guarantee you, if you look back, you could learn something from it. I don't think there are accidents. The problem is we don't do things we know we should do. We beat ourselves up rather than get a little bit more objective. Well, why didn't I do it? What can I learn about that? And maybe why you didn't do it was good reason. You didn't exercise, or you fell off from exercising because someone in your family got sick and you were taking care of them and yada, yada, yada. Like, in what world is that a bad thing? Now, of course, it would have been good if you could have done something during that time, but gosh, you're human. We all slip, we all fall. If I could have a billboard with as many characters as I could have, or if I could scream on a mountaintop and everybody could hear me, what I would say is, I don't care when you fall off, because you will, just shorten the gap from when you get back on. In other words, when you fall back, you fall down, get up. The smaller you can make that gap, the more your life will change in every way. The problem is we fall off, we beat ourselves up. And the object in motion stays in motion. And by the way, bad momentum is momentum. As you know, good momentum is good momentum as well. By the way, how do we get good momentum? By being perfect? No, because that's an illusion. By working out for hours at a time when we're not working out at all? No. What world? By eating perfectly? Eating clean all the time? No. It's by doing a little bit. So it's doing what you can do that you will do to build momentum. That's why small steps work. Those are doable things. Think about that old cliche. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Elephants are monstrous. I'm not obviously encouraging you to eat an elephant or supporting that. It's a cliche, people. But it is a good one. Because you would have to break it down one bite at a time, like any other goal in your life. And when we oftentimes overestimate what we can do in a short period of time, we underestimate what we can do over a long period of time. That creates a lot of stress and tension. You don't need any more stress and tension. We have enough of it. And if you want some, I'll give you some. We have plenty of it. Give yourself grace. You are where you are, and that's okay. You know, it's both acceptance of like, hey, here's where I'm at. Can't change the past. But also the realization that you can change today and you can change the future. So yes, it's okay to not beat yourself up from where you're at, but it's also not okay to stay where you're at and do nothing about it. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So if your stress is really high, if you're not healthy inside and out, do you think just a medication is going to fix everything? It might numb, but the system will find other issues. Trust me. So take some time for you. Whatever that looks like, start to give yourself grace. You are where you are, and that's okay. But what is the next thing you can do that you will do? Focus on that. Thanks for tuning in to That Was Yesterday with me, Joe Carabase. And remember, every step forward is progress. We'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, if you found any value from this episode, please share with friends and go ahead and give us a 5-star review. I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.